Thank you for listening to The Luminous Mind, episode 50.
Studying and learning about another culture and another country and another language really opens your eyes to the intricacies of what's important to these people.
Benjamin Franklin once said, "Do not curse the darkness, rather light a candle instead." If you're ready to set your mind on fire, then prepare yourself for the Luminous Mind with your host, Rebecca Bowman.
Today's fire starter is Andy Steves. Andy heads up the team at Weekend Student Adventures. Weekend Student Adventures Europe provides experiences in dozens of cities across Europe for students studying abroad. With a lifetime of travel experience under his belt, Andy launched WSA upon graduation from the University of Notre Dame in 2010 after growing up traveling with his father, Rick Steves. The WSA team now comprises expert local guides in top cities across Europe: Amsterdam, Barcelona, Berlin, Budapest. I'm going to totally say this one wrong. What is it? Krakow?
Krakow.
Paris, Prague, Rome, and more. Well, thank you, Andy, for joining us.
Hi there, Rebecca. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to connect with you here on your podcast.
Do you want to go ahead and kind of tell our audience about yourself? You kind of have a famous dad.
I do. Yes, that's definitely a defining component of my childhood for sure, and a foundational one. I was born in Seattle, and that's where I was raised. I grew up. It was me and my sister, and my mom would raise us oftentimes when my dad was traveling off in Europe. And what he was doing when he was traveling off in Europe is writing his guidebook, making his TV show, developing his radio show, and also writing fiction. Or nonfiction, some of his newer works recently. And so growing up every summer, my family would go visit him and catch up with him wherever he was in Europe. And his name is Rick Steves. So a lot of people are familiar with his book and his TV show. He's been at it for over 30 years now and has quite a operation with 80 full-time people back in Edmonds, Washington. That's my hometown.
Wow.
And up to close around 200 guides in Europe. So they send around 20,000 Americans to Europe each year. And so that's kind of where I got my background of growing up traveling. And my dad took it upon himself to teach me how to travel from an early age. And so by the time I was old enough to travel on my own, I felt right at home.
I would imagine. So how did traveling as a kid help change your worldview? Do you feel like it was a beneficial thing?
Well, yeah, absolutely. And, for me, when you're a kid just going through childhood, you don't know anything different. You don't look at anything beyond kind of your specter of just looking at it as if everything is normal, because that's the only thing you know. So my frame of reference was simply going to Europe every summer. I didn't know anything differently. So to me, it was just one of those things that, to be honest, oftentimes I would have rather just stayed home and played with friends at home in Edmonds, Washington over the summers and, just ride bikes and stuff like that. But instead, we would go travel as a family in Europe. And of course, that definitely changed my perspective. I came back to school each year having traveled to somewhere new, to France or to Italy or up to England and Ireland. And so that was a very good experience to have as a kid, because from a very early age, you realize that, the way things are done aren't necessarily the way they're supposed to be or the right way. It's just everybody does things a little bit differently, and that doesn't mean they're any better or worse. They're just different. And so from a very early age, it kind of taught me to look at things from a objective perspective, if that makes sense.
That's neat. So how many countries, by the time you turned 18, how many countries did you end up going to?
Oh, I don't know. I don't think I haven't been to Finland or Croatia yet. So those are on my list, but pretty much everywhere else.
Pretty much everything.
In Europe, yeah.
That sounds so fun. So I noticed that you did a little bit of work with your dad doing family-friendly type excursion. What mistakes do you think families make when they're traveling abroad?
Ooh, good question. So that's right. I did work as a assistant guide for my dad's tour company on a itinerary that went from Rome to Paris, and it was a 2-week-long itinerary that would start in Rome, go through Florence, Cinque Terre, Venice. No, forget Cinque Terre. It went Rome, Florence, Cinque Terre, up through Austria, Switzerland, and then finished in Paris. What mistakes we saw families make? We prevented a lot of their problems, ahead of time, just being a guide and assistant guide. Like, I learned a lot when I was working as an assistant guide, doing all the logistics and preparing for everything ahead of time before the group comes through. It really taught me how to identify what is a good tour and how does a tour run smoothly. But as far as mistakes people make when traveling, there's we could talk about that for hours. There's a lot of upside and really cool experiences to be had for traveling. But you need to be street smart too in major cities, and not that you're in any physical danger, because you're not. You're extremely safe, safer than any American city, that's for sure. In any city in Europe, but there are tourist traps, there are pickpockets, there are, taxi drivers that might charge you a little bit too much, things like that if you know what to watch out for, you can begin to identify those. If you're just going through and not kind of as a bewildered tourist, you might get caught up in a few along the way. But that doesn't mean stay home, obviously.
No, exactly. So, and I guess maybe I should have framed that question a little different. How do you think families can better enjoy traveling abroad? Because sometimes, especially if it's summertime, it's hot and you've got, kids that are not happy and all of that. How can that become a better experience? That might be a great question to ask my parents. I haven't actually traveled myself with the family through Europe quite yet, but in my experience, good behavior was always incentivized with ice cream or a daily allowance. It would be up to you to write a journal entry on a daily basis, and that's how you would earn your bread for the day. But as far as what mistakes I see people make, or how can they do it better while traveling with kids, I can't speak to that quite yet. I'm sorry, Rebecca. No, that's fine. So I just have to know, I'm traveling all over Europe. Do you know a number of languages then?
Yes. So in 8th grade, I started taking French, and I took French through high school and then into my freshman year of college at Notre Dame. And then at Notre Dame, I picked up Italian as well. So I was trying to study French and Italian simultaneously in my freshman year in college, but man, that's just impossible. Anybody who can do that, I have immense amounts of respect for, studying two languages at the same time. Because for me, I was mixing them up in my exams. It's just a very difficult thing to switch between 3 languages throughout the course of a day. But there are people who can do it, but not me. So I dropped French and I stayed on with Italian. So I'm just because of I studied it more recently. I can definitely get by in Italian, and I can get by in France as well. But
that's
recently I've been learning the basics of Czech. I'm calling you from Prague, so I'm picking up a few words here in Czech as well.
Oh, that's great. That's always the thing that I'm the most scared about, I think, is the language barrier. I'd like to be able to understand people. And so I know when we've traveled to Europe and stuff, when I couldn't understand, it was just super frustrating for me. And like you said, when you do travel, people are very kind. And, we tried to speak with them and try to understand in their language, but it was definitely a challenge. So,
yeah. And that's, what studying French, and I never anticipated this ahead of the fact. I was always like, well, if English is good for everybody else, it's good enough for me. Why do I need to study another language? But really studying and learning about another culture and another country and another language really opens your eyes to the intricacies of what's important to these people, and studying a little bit about the history and what gets them excited. It really helps you connect with them them when you do go and visit. So it's while it's extremely difficult and it's, you got to pour your blood, sweat, and tears into it. It's absolutely worthwhile for sure.
Yeah. Well, and one of the things that I love about your father's things that he does is he gets off the beaten path. He doesn't just go to all the tourist traps. He definitely encourages people to get in the back and in the back alleys type of thing and meet more people that way. And I think when I've traveled abroad, the trips that I liked the most were the ones where we kind of got off the beaten path and met people and tried to speak with them, and then also, ate at maybe restaurants that more of the locals ate at. Yeah. It's just interesting listening to your experience of traveling so much as a child. I definitely want to know, how did your weekend excursions get started? What was the inspiration behind that?
Mm-hmm. To get started with WSA, I had a series of experiences that led up to it, and what those were is I had the wonderful chance to study abroad in 2008 in Rome, and that was an experience that really changed my life, because for the first time ever I got a chance to stay put in one place rather than travel every few days as I had for the last 20 years of my life. It gave me a chance to stay put and really plug in a little bit and integrate it more into the culture and understand what's going on in the city. Doing that for the first time in 2008 really opened my eyes to how cool it is to go abroad, stay abroad, and then also travel while abroad, going from place to place. And so me and my friends, we realized that we had 3-day weekends, we had 10 weekends, and we could travel from a Thursday to a Sunday, zip around to other capitals around Europe and check out these amazing world-class cities, all for $60 round trip on budget airlines. So that's exactly what we started doing. We traveled every weekend to Venice or the Swiss Alps or to Sicily or to Naples or to the Cinque Terre, to Prague or to Athens, and we would travel around, and everybody was looking at me to figure everything out because I had been to these places before. I knew how to get around. I had friends on the ground. I knew how to save a little bit of money while we were traveling through group deals or discounts or whatever opportunity I was able to find. So at first, 4 friends came with me at the start of the semester on the weekends, and then it was 8, and then it was 16, and then by the end of the semester it was 32 friends, but also just other people coming with me because they knew I knew how to travel and get around and organize, basically. So just by virtue of having grown up coming to these places. So by the end of the semester, it had turned into a job more than anything else. So I realized, okay, there's opportunity here. There's a need here. I have the expertise. I'm living this need myself, and I know I have intimate familiarity with the market. So I went back to Notre Dame and started working on the business plan for Weekend Student Adventures. And I was really fortunate to have a year and a half to develop the concept. So that gave me extra time to kind of flesh it out, to interview more friends, to talk to business advisors, everybody like this. And so by the time, I guess May of 2010 rolls around, I'm able to compete in the business plan competition. We win. And so I'm like, okay, let's give it a shot and see what happens. And that was 5 years ago now. So it's pretty cool to think how far we've come and how many people we've affected and positively affected in their study abroad experience.
Yeah, and this isn't just you putting these trips together. You've amassed quite a group, right? Of experts.
So when I got started, it was me leading every weekend trip myself. So I would set up for the tour Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I'd lead the tour Thursday, Friday, Saturday, wrap up on Sunday, and then move on to the next city Monday, and then do it all over again. And over time, I would work really hard to find local expert guides who could take over for me in their hometowns. And so that's exactly what I've done. And I've been really fortunate to recruit an amazing group of young, fun, responsible, charismatic, knowledgeable, and professional local guides locals who can show around our groups, who know their city better than anybody else. And so I've been really fortunate to find such a cool roster of people.
That's awesome. So they're not just some boring professor that, it's not a boring trip that these students go on, correct?
Yeah, because I know that, students work hard for their weekends. I remember, what hard work it was Monday to Friday, and how much I wanted to just have fun and hang out on the weekend. So we've designed this company with exactly that in mind, with the needs of these customers and the priorities of our customers in mind. So that's exactly what we've done. And, judging by the reviews that we've gotten on TripAdvisor, I'm super proud of how well we've kind of hit that sweet spot of price, value, experience, service for our customers. So I'm pretty stoked about that.
So how do your weekend tours work?
Sure. You can tell I've had this talk before, huh? With our weekend trips, I designed it for somebody like myself. It's not exclusive to study abroad students, but anybody who's looking for a fun 3-day experience on the weekends backpacking around Europe who's open to staying in hostels is welcome. And so you go to our website, say you're interested in Paris, you check out what's included. Generally, as a rule, we include the top sightseeing. So, if it's your first time in Paris, I know you're going to want to see the Eiffel Tower and Mona Lisa in the Louvre, right? And so we include that. We include an evening bike tour with a river cruise. We include 2 nights in a hostel, all your local transportation, an option for a really cool dinner at a kind of a local one-man restaurant. All these really unique kind of off the beaten path experiences. So you just select the weekend, you select the date, and then select your options if you want anything extra, like an extra night at the hostel, for example. And then you enter in your information, you click book, and across the board, our guided trips are €200. Those are our weekend trips, and that's 3 days, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and really sets you up to experience as much as you possibly can in 3 short days in these cities.
So what's the advantage of staying in a hostel? And maybe you might want to explain what that is, because I wouldn't know.
Let's see. So, and one of the reasons for that is because in the States, we just don't have much of a hosteling culture. And I understand that. And a lot of students and parents are concerned about safety in hostels. But generally, hostels are extremely safe. They're fun. My favorite part of the hosteling experience is the social scene. You get to meet backpackers and travelers from all around the world. You get to trade ideas and have interesting conversations. You make friends. You go out during the day to sightsee. You go out at night with these new friends. So all around, the best hostels have a really cool social dynamic that comes as, for me, the most valuable component. And, what you're doing is you're paying, say, 10 to 20 to 30 euros, depending on the city, for a night in a hostel room where you might have 6 or 8 beds, whereas you could pay 150 euros for a private room at a hotel, And so for a lot of people, it makes a lot of economical sense, but also for those who want to travel in a social way, hostels are a great way to anchor your trip, as a place to stay.
And a little safer, you think, than like couch surfing? That seems to be kind of the new rage, it seems like.
Couch surfing is popular. I haven't heard anything unsafe per se about couch surfing, but I would recommend doing it with a friend if you're a female. It's always better to go with 2, just to have each other's back. But I haven't used couch surfing myself because in my brief experience when I was trying to use it, it just took too much time to sift through all the active versus inactive profiles on couch surfing. A lot of college students might sign up and think it's a really cool idea, but then forget to check it ever again, after the first week or so.
Yeah,
so,
and hostels are a little better established and easier to... Is that correct?
And there's service, and you got cleaning, relative. It's all relative, but you got house cleaning and maybe a bar, and it's actual venue. It's a building with it's a purpose built location.
That's great. So I'm looking at his website, and he's got. This website is information packed, so I definitely recommend checking it out. But so you've got trips all over Europe, and even into the.
WSAEurope.com?
Yes.
Oh, is that okay?
WSA,
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, WSAEurope.com. Cool.
Anyway,
I'm glad you like it.
But I noticed that you also include the Sahara Desert and some of those things. Are these just trips, or do you offer like, extra things like you talked about backpacking? Do you take kids on, students on those types of things? You mentioned bicycling. I mean, what are some of the extra little things that you do other than just sightsee?
Sure. Let's see. So for each of our destinations, we have, the top, say, 12 major tourist cities in Europe lined up. So, you can guess them: Amsterdam, Paris, Dublin, London, Barcelona, Prague, Budapest, Rome, cities like that are at the top of everybody's list. And what we've done is we've boiled it down to, okay, if it's your first 3 days in these cities, we know what you're going to want to see. You're going to want to see the typical, sightseeing. You're going to want to stay in a good, well-located hostel. You're going to want to have a fun local guide to show you around, but also unique experiences specific to that city. So in Budapest, we go caving and into the thermal baths that Budapest is so famous for. Caving is you throw on these hard hats and coveralls and go crawling around in these dry limestone caves that are deep beneath the city. And so those are really cool to check out. In Krakow, of course, we do a day trip out to the Auschwitz and Birkenau concentration camp, which is really important to see. It's heavy hitting, but some really great history to learn about. In Rome, we do the typical Colosseum and Vatican experience, but on top of that, we go to some of our favorite restaurants. We give you a Gelato 101 kind of tasting class or lesson. So as you can see, it's kind of the perfect balance between the stuff that you got to see, the stuff that you got to visit, but also some of the more memorable experiences.
And something that's kind of fun as well, not just some boring educational experience. Not that that's boring.
Yeah, exactly.
So I love, he's got a whole section on travel tips. Do you want to let them know how a student could get started? I'm obviously checking you out first, right? And then what about ID and stuff like that? I mean, what do you recommend for those?
Yeah, so our website, WSAEurope.com, is structured in such a way that it allows you to book our trips, so our city trips, our week-long guided trips throughout Europe. So that's part of it, but the other part is a whole bunch of extensive travel tips. And what those are is it's just free information, content geared for budget travelers and student travelers throughout Europe. But a lot of I think most people would find this information useful, everything from electrical adapters and which countries use which, to how to use Airbnb.com, for example, which is another kind of very popular accommodation finding website that's really blown up recently, down to, like we were talking earlier, the service and working and interning abroad information. So we got all of that information up on the website that visitors can come and check out. But I can't give it all away. You got to come and check out the website.
Exactly. Before we go on, let us take a minute and hear about our sponsors.
Hey, fire starters, are you looking for a new way to listen to the Luminous Mind? Try listening on Stitcher. Haven't heard of Stitcher? Think of it as radio on demand. You can listen to the Luminous Mind anytime, anywhere. There is no downloading, no syncing, no wasted memory. Just stream your favorite podcasts such as the Luminous Mind. Stitcher is available on iOS, Android, Nook, iPad, and also from your favorite internet browser. Don't have Stitcher? Download it free today at Stitcher.com or in the App Store. And make sure you rate and review the Luminous Mind, so together we can continue to light minds on fire and change the paradigm of education.
Welcome back to the Luminous Mind with Andy Steves Weekend Student Adventures. So you talked about the reviews and you're getting some great reviews. What success have you seen with students that are using your program?
Oh my gosh. Well, let's first off, you can check out our TripAdvisors. Just TripAdvisor and then search WSA Europe. And we're on TripAdvisor. We're based in Rome, but we've been getting some amazing reviews on there. But I was just looking at this today, and I wish I could do a screen share with you and your listeners, but after every single tour, we send out a thank you email saying, like, please tell your friends about us, let us know what you thought of the trip, and also send us your best pictures so we can put them up on our Facebook page. Well, in that message, we have a link to a survey. We say, please, leave us a good word on TripAdvisor, and here's a link to a survey so that you can really get into detail about, what you liked or would recommend updating in the tour. And so I was just pulling that up today. Since we started, we've had 732 pieces of feedback.
Wow.
So since 2010, we've had 732, which means we've had 3,000 total customers. So that's a pretty strong response rate. When it just under 15% when it comes to the college student that's studying abroad. They got plenty of other things to worry about, but 732 of our customers have taken the time to, give us reviews. And the positive feedback has been immensely positive. I mean, in the latest 3 reviews, we've had 1 on Berlin and 2 in Rome. They loved the guide here in Berlin. Ahsoka was flexible, changing things that the group consensus was to do so. Really enjoyed seeing the Berlin Wall, hearing about the different stories of individuals who were affected by it. And what else? In Rome, for example, we asked, do you have any suggestions for changing or updating the itinerary? This person said, nope, everything was great. The latest piece of feedback we've had, it said life-changing and amazing. I mean, it was so cool to it's so cool to be doing what I'm passionate about, but also knowing that I'm positively affecting students' experiences while abroad, helping them perhaps get to cities they wouldn't necessarily feel comfortable going to solo, and also just kind of open their eyes to the world around them a little bit.
Yeah. And when you begin a tour, do you meet at a train station or do you at the airport? Do you meet them right at the beginning or do you have them, meet you somewhere within? Mm-hmm. How does that work?
Sure. So when you book, we receive your information. So your email, your contact information, all that stuff. And about a week ahead of time, we send out what we call a prep email. And this prep email has all the information that you need in it for directions to the hostel. You got weather forecast information. You got currency information. So we want to provide students and our customers with all the information that they need up front to help them just kind of relax and get ready to enjoy the ride without holding their hand so much. So we tell them, here's how you get to the hostel. We'll see you here either Thursday evening or first thing Friday. And so that's been a system that's worked well. And this way, students are free to arrive at any time in the day because they're coming in from all over Europe. We'll have students on any given weekend studying in Madrid, in Galway, in Ireland, in Florence, and Paris, all coming to Budapest for a weekend. So the draw is quite wide. It's relevant to students studying everywhere, and it's cool to have developed something that really helps everybody coming from all different backgrounds have such a good time.
Well, and their classes all end different times on Thursday, right?
Exactly. Some students, have class Tuesday, Wednesday, and that's it, whereas other ones have a more serious course load and, have classes Monday through Thursday evening, for example, and even some on Friday. But so we just do our best to time it so that no matter when you get in, you get to experience as much of the city as possible.
So living abroad can get kind of addictive. Do you have any advice on how students can, once their study abroad ends, how can they get back there to do what you're doing and, live in Europe and have that experience?
Mm-hmm. Well, I was very fortunate to have I just couldn't ignore this opportunity and need for something that I knew exactly what to do and how to do it. So I found myself in a pretty unique and lucky situation, all things considered. But running the WSA show over the last 5 years, I've encountered a lot of people who have found their way over through all sorts of different ways, and the common theme is they've always followed their passion, whether it's education or for some people it's partying. You meet a lot of people who are just backpacking around the world and paying their way by bartending, for example.
And they just
other
stop
people
and stay in
teach English.
a specific area for a while and earn enough money? Okay.
Exactly. They'll just go around the world and end up in a city, and if they like it, they'll stay. If they don't like it, they just keep going. If they like it, they'll talk to a hostel, and they'll either start working there or live at the hostel and start working at a bar nearby until they find an apartment. And it's just kind of it's definitely a different lifestyle than what a lot of people are used to back in the States, where you go to work from 9 to 5 and you're planning 6 months out to save up enough vacation days to or 3 years out to save up enough vacation days to do whatever you actually want to do. These backpackers are just kind of living by going along with the flow and seeing what happens. And
there's enough. I mean, you can find a temporary job kind of like that. I mean, there's enough demand for that.
Well, it depends. Europeans can go live anywhere and work within Europe without worrying about. There's visa issues, is I guess what I need to say. So in Australians and Australia and Europe have a reciprocal work visa situation where Australians can work around the world basically anywhere they want for free. So any Aussie you meet on the road is more likely than not traveling for 6 months to 2 years. They take a gap year between high school and college, and at any given time there are thousands and thousands of young backpacker Aussies going around the world because it's just the thing to do. It's a really cool part of their I guess growing up process, and so they take a couple of years to just go see the world, and these guys you'll encounter them everywhere, working in restaurants or teaching English or working on pub crawls, whatever.
Wow. So do you work with specific schools on their travel abroad courses, or?
Yes, we do, and I'm really proud about them because it's taken us 4 years to get enough recognition for quality for them to, pay attention to us. 4 or 5 years ago, when you walk into their office and you say, "Hey, we'd like you to trust us to put together a very high, intensity, manually intensive, logistical challenge excursion for you. Can you please just trust us this once, and we promise we'll do a good job?" A lot of administrators don't really respond well to. They're very risk averse, you can say, and so they don't.
They don't want to put their students in an unsafe situation.
Yeah, exactly, and I don't blame them for it. But it took us a couple of years for us to get to that point where they're contacting us. We have a reputation now, so I'm very proud of that and excited about that. So we have a positive reputation where people have heard about us, they know what we're up to, and they've heard good things.
Well, and I thought I saw on your website that you're backed by like the travel advisor. I mean, you've got some backing.
Yeah. Well, it's been many years of hard work, but we're established, we're running, we're getting incredible reviews. TripAdvisor, we have like a 4.8 star rating on TripAdvisor. We have a 5-star rating on Facebook. What else? We have testimonials posted on our website. We have all sorts of content that we've developed out for the last 5 years, and a lot of it has just been the positive word of mouth that everybody who goes on our trips really generates. So we're excited about that. And I gotta say, it's due in large part because of my amazing guide team. It's so cool to these people are some of the most incredible, most interesting individuals I've ever met, and so I'm immensely positive to have this opportunity to work with them and know that and I don't mean to sound like a broken record, but throughout, we're helping students experience Dutch culture or French culture or Catalan culture in Barcelona much more authentically than they would otherwise. If they just go on their own, they're going to take some pictures of, the famous landmark and then check it off their list. But that doesn't mean they actually experience that culture in that city in a meaningful, deep way,
Well, it sounds like your travel advisors actually like their job too. Like they find it fun and exciting as well.
Our guides?
So yeah, your guides.
Oh yeah, so. yeah, absolutely. They it's really cool because we it's a challenge to convince students that taking a tour is worth €200, but it is. This is your one chance to be able to experience the city, and you have one opportunity to do it right. And if you do it wrong, it's it's darn near impossible to replicate the you can come back to the city, but you can't replicate the opportunity and kind of the environment that you're in right now at this stage of your life, and staying in the hostels and ready to go out and meet people and have a good time. You can't replicate that in another 10 years when you're worried about a mortgage payment,
traveling with children.
Or traveling with children, exactly. Or having to, count your vacation days until you can take, 2 weeks to go around Europe. So to do it right the first time is not only imperative, but it just makes the most economic sense. And so if you got to spend $30 more to get connected with an amazing local guide who can really bring the city to life for you, that's what our job and challenge has been, to convince people about, or at least explain that to them, or communicate that to them on our website. So that's something that we've been focused on a lot recently.
Well, and what a wonderful experience to be able to get your education there, like you said, and then be able to experience, to have the full spectrum experience. So, Andy, what do you see as your long-term goals being for your travel abroad business?
Oh, man. We want to be the go-to resource for travel for students studying abroad in Europe. We have some competition. We have competition that is much bigger than us, but the very flattering thing is they pay attention to us and they copy everything we do. So it's it used to kind of shake me a couple years ago, but now I'm just used to it and I expect it, and I just consider it a compliment. So I've gotten past that and have really just focused on continuing to provide excellent service and value for our customers. We have something that I'm really excited about that is something we just launched about a year ago, and we're seeing some pretty solid uptake in our market and with our customers, is something we're calling detours. And these detours are unguided packages that basically combine the best of all worlds: a guidebook, a local friend, efficient sightseeing, reservations made for you ahead of time, and all compiled into an unguided package. So what I did was I wrote up basically a 10-page destination guide for my favorite cities in Europe. I figured out, okay, if we're going to include 2 key sites and accommodation in a hostel or a private apartment or a budget hotel, whatever you prefer. And we've packaged that online so that when you book, we make reservations at the key sites, put all that information into a single file and forward it to you so that you can go through and connect the dots independently. And this is something that I think would have universal appeal to our customers.
Yeah. And that sounds like it would be a little more low-key. Something, like you said, that you can kind of take it at your own pace and do the things that you want to do instead of hanging with the group.
Yeah. And it's kind of going after that part of the student group that might not want to take a tour no matter what. And I get that. And there are independent people out there who have traveled before or want to do it at their own pace or not have to do certain things if they don't want to. I get that. And so from 2010 to 2013 and 14, students kept coming to me and asking me, hey, can you just tell me what to do and I'll go do it on my own? Can you just tell me for free? And I was like, well, this is kind of what I've been working so hard to create and develop. So I can't just give it away. But so I went to the drawing board and was figuring out, okay, in what way could we leverage our expertise in a way that people would be interested in purchasing a package for? So that's how I came up with detours. And so to answer your question 10 minutes ago, my long-term, my 5-year goal or my mid-long-term goals are to see where this road takes us, because I think this very attractive or very interesting to not just students and budget travelers, but every traveler going to a city for the first time who just wants to kind of do it on their own. If they're just going with their, say their wife or whatever, or going with a friend and they just want to do their own thing. It's kind of the perfect balance of all of the different things that go into putting a good trip together.
Well, and maybe a little more assistance for somebody that's been there, but wants to see something different than they did like the first time.
Yeah.
So if you could leave a legacy, what would it be? You're kind of young, I guess.
Yeah, I haven't quite considered my legacy yet, but I suppose that's something that I should always be keeping in mind. If I help Americans, young Americans, be more engaged and well-rounded and with greater perspective in and with our society, I think that would go a long ways towards what I would want to do.
Yeah.
I think it's so important. I think travel is the best way for our electorate to understand that it's not just America versus the world. I think there's a lot of opportunities to learn while traveling, and I think travel really opens your eyes to the fact that the Dutch aren't just the crazy Dutch, or the French. Our whole frenzy about French fries 10 years ago. And all these different things. I think it makes it a lot harder to demonize foreign people if you go and study and understand them a little bit better and learn from them. And I think that's so important when the world is only getting smaller and smaller.
Yeah, that is really true. We are very isolated in the United States, and I think it would help create a lot of more peace if people understand where their neighbors are coming from.
Exactly, and that goes for everybody. But I think America has a lot, I think Americans have a lot to learn moving forward.
Yeah. So before we say goodbye, do you have any final parting words of advice for our listeners? And then please give us your contact information.
Sure. As far as parting words of advice, come to Europe and enjoy and have some fun and learn about this incredible place, whether it's Spain or Portugal all the way to Sweden and Norway. I think there's something in it for everybody. So check that out, and you can get your trip started at WSAEurope.com. That's how you can reach us. WSAEurope.com as in Weekend Student Adventures, and my name is Andy Steves, and you can drop us an email at info@WSAEurope.com, and check us out on Facebook and YouTube at WSA Europe as well. We got some amazing highlight reels and videos up on our Facebook page.
Oh,
so
I'll have to
check those out.
Yeah, I'll have to check that out. We watch your dad's stuff that's how, if we can't get there, we might as well enjoy watching it on YouTube. So we'll have to start doing yours now that we've gone through all this stuff.
We have amazing. I recruit interns each semester, and we have amazing interns who have put together these incredible highlight reels from going on our trips, whether it's St. Patty's in Dublin or Central Europe or Barcelona. We have some amazing shots of these incredible cities.
That's great. Well, thank you so much for joining us. I'm probably going to be calling you because when we head over there as a family, I may need a travel ticket or a package put together. So
sure.
Well, thanks so much.
You know how to get a hold of me.
Yes.
You got it. Thanks so much for having me. I really enjoyed this talk.
All right.
And
thank
keep
you.
Persevering. That's the number one rule when it comes to setting something up. So
yeah,
you got to work hard at it.
Exactly. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to The Luminous Mind. To learn more about Andy Steves and Weekend Student Adventures, go to our show notes at theluminousmind.net. Also, be sure to become a subscriber to our free email list so you can receive our weekly audio blog, The Spark. We would love to have you join our program. Do so by going to the scheduling tab and become a fire starter today. Help support the podcast by making all your Amazon purchases through the free Amazon widget on our website, theluminousmind.net. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Google+. Get our audio content on YouTube, iTunes, and Stitcher. Leave us a review. Tell us how we can help you so together we can continue to light minds on fire and change the paradigm of education.